So our topic is managing conflict. Right here we have this quote: the only kind of bad conflict is unresolved conflict. And we can all take it back to moments, whether it be our personal or professional or in workplace, where we've come across some sort of conflict. And with position, I'm able to get around a little bit more with everybody, and so conflict is happening constantly around you, and you may not even be aware that the conflict is there. Okay, so talk a little bit about the conflict. Okay. So conflict is defined as it exists when people who depend on each other have different views, interests, values, responsibilities, objectives, and perceive their differences as incompatible. Is defined action of solving a problem, dispute, or contentious matter. Okay, so talk about conflict resolution with managers, and this is a topic that I really want the front desk scheduling coordinators to really grasp some of these concepts and these skills, and to a conscious awareness of conflict, because at the end of the day, of how we resolve conflict has so much to do with knowing how to read another person's body language, their words, and being able to separate the problem from a personality trait or a person, okay? And has a lot to do with your own personal emotional intelligence in the first place. And when I use the term emotional intelligence, what that means is that our ability to make our own emotions stay under control at all times. Allow the other person to express themselves the way they need to in order for conflict not to escalate. Types of conflict. Overt conflict is out in the open and explicit. Discussing disagreements aloud, intensely arguing about ideas, challenges, and physical attacks. So, calmly discussing disagreements out loud. An example, sometimes I've heard us say, "Oh, it's my job," or "I get paid to do that," or "I don't know, Emily was here yesterday." So, okay. So, and certain sort of responses cause conflict. Okay, they may cause not getting around your coworkers, but they will cause conflict with your provider. Okay, when we need to be aware of it. Okay. Overt conflict is passive-aggressive, usually expressing feelings about disagreements indirectly. Example: passive aggression, playing games, blemish games. So with these, this refers to as individual who is more passive aggressive, maybe vent to another coworker about the situation, which creates gossip. Okay. Make those two types to one or the other that has probably taken in place.
I would like to add that conflicts happen typically deep into assumptions, not clearly defining your roles and responsibilities. For example, I wasn't supposed to do it. It was my check-in time. My check-in is saying my check-out, someone else. But as a manager, if you're defining the roles and responsibilities clearly, then there would be no reason for it. If that happens, then yes, we need to resolve it in an amicable way. But at the step back and think, why did it happen to begin with? And
Causes conflict. Okay, here, this graph, a lot of these errors are going to take place in our day. And I'll take your offices as an example. So relationship goals, or relationship conflicts, communication, strong emotions, stereotyping, and repetitive negative behavior. Okay. Again, I've said, the stereotyping number 3 is, again, also, making some assumptions. Data conflict. Lack of documenting, paying attention to detail. Require attention to detail. We are not individuals who hold ourselves accountable to documenting our phone calls or documenting, our procedures or things like that. So knowing that someone's going to come behind me and read or have to research something, ultimately, I'm going to be creating a conflict, okay, for not doing this particular task. Interest conflict, actual conflict over interest, procedural interest, psychological interest, different life ideas, the way each views the world differently, different criteria in which we do evaluate other, ideas. Conflict, authority, unequal control of resources, and time constraints. So, go to value conflict. I like it. This one is this should be something that's really that can be managed effectively if we are making sure that we are managing and implementing our company core values into our offices, and we manage by those core values, because all the entire team is going to act and behave on those core values. So this, I feel, is very that we can control as managers and as coming up into management. Time constraints. Smiling does an excellent job in minimum time constraints with having an offshore team. You said earlier, having all those resources. You being a manager here, and or when you're not there, coordinators, you're left there to manage. Pretty much have all these resources and these tools, but it creates conflict if you don't use these tools effectively. So that's you have to ask it, how can we use these effectively if you don't know how? Okay. On this,
what are the common conflicts in the office? What are the key conflicts that happen on a regular basis?
Communication.
What's that?
Body language. With a lot of that, I just mean something in a bad way, but you saying something and then your body language following it to make it as if you didn't mean that.
Anyone else?
Misinterpretation, you don't understand the process of how to do something because there's also a misinterpretation. They're not registering for accuracy.
Someone, what is the most common conflict in the group? You have had a few of plays.
you can say person A, that's a person B, or
I don't think so.
you don't have to say it, because this right here is a learning.
So this is an interactive. This is an interactive session. We need to learn from each other.
Yes.
Please share These coming in,
some of us are better than others. And
Well, I know my facial expressions give what I feel on the inside away, and I try to work on that, but it's my probably, I guess.
I super hard. We all work different. I have to work different perspectives.
Yeah.
Different needs, different. I mean, everybody just works different. Everybody gets the job done
different.
Yeah.
different ways. I think everybody can understand that. That's just, you know, you just.
I know with that.
Everybody works different ways. I'm very high in my office. Like, whoever took my facial expression, get it. Right off the bat.
so a common theme that I pick out is something and saying meaning, and I'm seeing our body with facial expressions is misconstrued, misinterpreting the message. And I'm thinking that, really? That wasn't implied.
I think if you give constructive criticism, we take it as a personal blow, but that's not, I don't think that would be the fault of the person giving criticism. I think it's more how you're open, because you take it like, oh, well, it's a personal attack, but it's really just. I would say it's a lot about how people tell things, you know, the way to approach people and telling them, hey, you know, by the way, you know, you're doing this wrong, but, you know, let's work on it this way, you know, like, I'm just kind of just the way that people say things, sometimes I have a lot to do with it.
So then how do you solve this problem? What's your recommendation?
Okay, so. Manager, and I knew that this was going on. So as a matter, if I know, here's what happens in most cases I've seen is, you know, manager, AA will come, then to them, well, you know, she's doing this and she's doing that, and I told her this, and it's just, you know, she's just really, you know, rude or just really, you know, nasty, you know, and manager listens as they get some feedback as to maybe how to approach that. But then here comes employee to the office. They do the same thing. So manager, this is where your emotional intelligence has to be up here. Because up here, you're going to get to the next side, get a win-win solution. That's their main goal, is to get a win-win solution for the employees. Ultimately, a win-win-win solution to you're obviously going to win for yourself. Right? You're going to avoid the conflict, and you're going to teach them. So ultimately, the managers have to understand that you're teaching your employees how to together, how to conflict, how to handle it themselves. So you have the two employees come in and then expect them to go and you know, do what they should do. It's also, you have to be the arbitrator, you have to be the facilitator, you have to be the mediator. So this is usually like the first time, like, you know, when these things happen. I don't suggest that you have them kind of go and handle themselves. So these two people come to you, make a safe space and to and talk about what they're feeling, how they're perceiving each other. Okay, how I do that is I set up when I say, okay, I understand where you're coming from. I pre coming to me and letting me know this way that you're feeling. This is something that we can definitely fix. So I will for now. I'm going to, you know, also hear from him. Okay, and gather, and I will set a meeting and I'll talk to reassure them. You have to reassure each other that it's going to be okay. Okay, you're in control. Okay, it's going to be okay. You're going to create a safe space to talk, and so that's Kim. They will know what's going on with herself, with the situation. I'll do the exact same thing you said, and make sure it's completely fair. And same thing I demand that I say to Kim. I don't say anything more, and I don't say anything less. Okay? So I have to follow up. I have to be, my word, I have to do what promises to that. Okay? And it would go to that important. It's not in your day-to-day, but it'd be important. Okay? So, have to work. All the time, the place for it too. You don't want to begin it of work. It's best to do it at the end, at the end of the day. So, call it, and then there's plenty of hours that go by before the next morning. Okay? Just be patient.
I would like to add a couple of things. So, factors here. One factor, of course, a remark, and some language that was maybe less. Maybe that person was just trying to be funny or having a bad day. Who knows? Person to whom the break was passed to, manager, right? So, person be sensitive to others. If it's first thing is, let me stay away from doing such things. You maybe ranting, you're passing a remark, you're trying to be funny or just sarcastic, but build that buffer with the other person. Then let them know you're a nice person who has helped them. Now you pass a remark and they will know that you are just ranting. But we have built that foundation. Coming punching, then that's what the hell. And person B who is listening, have a skin. Have a thicken. Maybe having a bad day. Make it a thing. Maybe she just took her grandma to emergency. Who knows? Maybe she will like it. It has happened to you too. One. Number two, person who comes in the way grow in the career on you. So in your goal, you let someone else affect you in getting where you want to be. Don't let anyone else affect you. Don't let other person affect you. It's your job. Now, rude and lazy, yes, manager, tell them properly. See, this happened. Person asked this remark, I don't think it was good. If it happens, the managers are not lying. They will do the right thing. But if it's just, being sarcastic, remark here, there it happens. Shrug it off. Take in, think about you, stick to it, move up. Don't get bogged down by what others are saying and what their body language is. The manager, she will notice, let her do that job. Mm-hmm.
How many of you have played sports in here before? Okay. So, when you learn to play sports, it's all, you spend time and you keep, with the ball. Get to that moment. Up, again, right up, and you try, and every time you got back up, a little golfer. You when you missed before. So again, Abhinav says thick skin. Have thick skin. going to deal with your own feelings, but also the feelings of others. The other one use as an example is our patients. Do we interact with our patients? Our emotions respond the same way to our team members? So a patient comes up and they're very upset, and they're expressing themselves why they're upset. What is the first reaction to that patient? Yep. Pathetic, or suddenly go to a conscious awareness of that. Okay? Do we think we're doing that with each other? Guys, you know, as we go through this, and we go to your offices, is that there's conflict. Attach the person to the conflict. Focus on the conflict itself. Okay, just like you do the patient. Okay, because you're focusing on this conflict that the patient is having. And ultimately care and enjoy your job. And you're thinking because you're a good person. Okay, so show that to your team, your manager, and vice versa. Okay, I guarantee you, the more that you do that, the more you'll follow you. Dental assistants, the doctor, hygienist. Okay, so just ultimately, type of conflict orientations or outcomes are win-win, lose-lose. One person wins at the expense of the other. Like results and losses for everyone involved. The way to resolve differences so that everybody gains. Now, when we lose, one person wins at the expense of the other. Quickly ends up in lose, conflict, results and losses for everyone involved. Loss of activity, gossip, our patients. Okay.
This slide expect a manager to have environment where they're foster win-win kind of attitude among their employees. As a manager of your office, it's your job to have a sense of team dynamic, functioning with whom well and not functioning. Even if not, then having a sense of okay, what's going on, to let it explode, be proactive, reach out to the persons involved and ask, hey, what's going on? And before it gets explosive, because it keeps building, and then you have mission, and it's building, and it goes, and it becomes very difficult to salvage, and one person has to go. And some team, your loss doesn't look good on you. So instead, people are go for your team dinners, build that foundation, make people talk, enjoy teamwork. Get in there so that if there are some small things in there, then you absorb by the foundation.
And I refer to conscious awareness quite a bit. And what I mean by that is, like what Got said, you know, team building events, get those team meetings. But when you're at building events, step back. See who's interacting. Are we interacting equally? Is being observed as maybe someone isn't in there? Be conscious and aware of now is you have to take action. You have to make sure that maybe someone who's feeling as an outsider. Okay? So you can't do that if you're not consciously aware and just step back. Yes, be part of the fun, be part of, you know, the the building, but when you're team building, you're the facilitator of that team building as well. This slide should have been a video. Change it. So, what were y'all thinking? What did you say?
Didn't we just discuss it?
Anybody else? What?
Done by the tone.
Like,
Yeah.
on my tone?
Yeah.
So, you have great conflict? What if this gets sent to a doctor? Uh-huh. This doctor, you know, so, responsive, neglect, okay? Minimizing a disagreement, someone's anger or the tension related to the problem. Okay, so we just neglect, you know, that something is done. And it's a lot in a lot of the offices, and I've heard it from doctors. You know, doctors will, you know, they want to know what something wasn't done. You know, if it has something to do with their patient or their production, right? Yeah, their ultimate goal is production, patient experience. So it's verified. You know, you understand you're going to be asked the question, why wasn't this done? It's a normal response, right? Natural question. So you want to be aware of our responses, okay? One, they come across as being, and that itself doesn't come across very profound. The person passing to somebody. Again, being conscious of our response. Exit. Response to conflict, and from the conflict physically or psychologically. Again, this type of person who may just let it build up, they may not say anything until they can't take it anymore, and then they may just blow away. They fine, okay? But say anything, they will show in a performance. Okay? That could lose or outcome. The employee's job performance declines, and it creates time and we wasted for the company because this employee is not being 100% productive. Okay? So that is, you know, manager's objective in their job position, make our employees are 100% productive. If we in the moment or timely manner, then it can have an effect. Loyalty is tolerating differences in order to stay in that relationship. Engaging in over disagreement only hurts someone. This person will choose to remain loyal to the relationship instead of working through differences. Who's going to experience oh, I had no idea. Right. Yeah. Okay. Addresses conflict directly and attempts to resolve it. This is the most effective response in resolving conflict. It results in a win-win. However, caveat that is using correct communication strategy. We'll look at it later. Yes.
What is your role that you play is actually like the tone and the aggression that you use, but it's actually coming from the doctor towards the other employees.
I agree. I think that would be the same question as.
I'll do that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
So what, you're having a little spat? I forget, are you guys dating? No. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's like a flight. This office is that to us part, assuming that we don't get downsized. Would you and meet us in the conference room, please? Here's tool chest. Well, to get started, you should know that there are 5 different cells of conflict. Powder and Kepler style defeats your monkey style.
Here we go. I have a lot of work to do.
No, this is important. Okay, the first style is lose-lose. What's the next one? Just hold on. Okay. If we do lose, neither of you gets one. Understand? You would lose. Now I need you to pursue a lose-lose negotiation.
Can we get to whatever number 5 is, win-win, whatever?
Win-win. And number 5 is win-win-win. The importance here is with win-win, we all win. You, I win for having successfully mediated a conflict at work. Now, one time, I want you to express your feelings using my emotion language and judging. Use statements.
Got special for Christmas, and I want to sing it every day. I feel like the babies are the true artists, and that has a really cute sense of humor.
Here's that. I don't like looking at it. It's creepy and in bad taste. It's just offensive to me. Think of the horrible stage mothers who force the babies into it. It's kitchen. It destroys souls. This is so more offensive to me than hardcore porno. Let's see if we can just brainstorm and find some creative alternatives that are win-win.
Win.
Yes, thank you. Angela makes the poster into a T-shirt which Oscar wears. That way he can never see it. She can see it. Win-win. No. Well, brainstorm. Own the solution.
How about I leave it up,
How would you take it down?
and I can keep it up on Tuesdays and Thursdays?
Okay, that is called a compromise. And it's L3. It is not ideal. To sum up, win-win, T-shirt. We lose, compromise Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the answer is into a T-shirt. Win-win.
Win.
It is done.
Oh,
Oh.
I wasn't,
Is this? So, sorry. Wait, okay, notes in that clip talked about, he talked about the communication, set or how they were going to communicate things and how this was going to take place, right? So, a few communication strategies that you want to remind ourselves. We are trusting ourselves regarding someone else doing something. Keep in mind that says assumptions. You are feeling something that's not necessarily right or wrong. You're about to express something based on something someone else did. That being said, you have to use your words in a way that does not evoke a certain emotion in the other party, so you can get your point across, which is your feelings, basically. Okay, it's feelings. At the end of the day, because you something that you know yet if it were in fact true, right? Okay. So, I think the emotion is the most changing, the most I think under we don't focus a lot in controlling them, that we have to practice. They don't practice, it creates conflict. Okay. We have to be able to discipline our emotions. Our emotions can also they can be used against us or they can be used for us. Okay. So we need to be aware of our emotions as measures, first and foremost, because we by example, and as well as team members. So can limit self-defensive responses. Language, using I language, not you language. I versus exactly. Right. Because you have to take ownership. You're saying I because you're taking ownership for your feelings. Other person that you're talking, they have to take ownership in their feelings. People of our own feelings. At the end of the day, if we really study why we do what we do and why we react in a certain situation or why we act in certain ways, that is only up to us and how we act in the situation. So, as I perceive something to have been create a feeling in me that's ultimately my responsibility to effectively communicate to the party where I'm coming from in my feelings, not theirs. Okay? So I ownership. So I'm saying I feel it. I'm sad. Again, you have to make sure you stop yourself and then start over. Okay? And then the manager comes in. Okay? That word you stop and you have them rephrase. Say that people is if they're practicing. Okay? So that's why it's important to know that like this is to be said at the end of the day. Because you're not trying the first time. You know, you're sitting doing what you saw together.
Practice, we have plenty of opportunities.
Absolutely. 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 I challenge you, practice at home, practice your spouses, practices with your boyfriends and things like that. Practice your children. You know,
Sorry, this is not only helpful at workplace, but also helpful in our personal lives in a big way.
I'm going to go through these, Ashley, to answer your question. Because at the day, no matter how something is said to you or saying it, you're in control, and you're going to get in the habit of putting a message, and not the person is saying or how they're saying it to you. So, like the patient example, you know. So, let's see, language, mutual self-interest. Appeal to mutual self-interest to the task, job at hand. Now you have two employees in front of you. Express. This person, what second? As the manager, you want to make sure that you are having a mutual self-interest for both of them. You have to pull out something that they're expressing that mutual interest. So let's say, you know, they're upset because I gave her, you know, extra time to do her ortho training in this day. Okay? Okay, so she was upset, and so she told me after. And I expressed to her, you know, my feelings, you know, she didn't say on time, and I just, there was no time for me to get it in at the last moment, and, you know, that's what happened. That's what happened. Okay? So as a manager, there's a mutual interest. What do you think the mutual interest in this is? What is the interest? Like, why is she emotionally upset because she able to maybe deliver her information?
There's a lack of communication when it comes down to weren't, you know, like Maggie wasn't able to having property, so when that situation happens, it's like, okay, I wasn't supposed to mention that, but we didn't have time, so that's when it happens.
So it's ultimately affects her job performance, the job performance of others, that she needs her metrics for ortho. Okay. My interest, being a deadline, yet which has to do with my job performance. Okay. And you simply recognize something that's a mutual interest to each party, and you say, you know what? Mutual interest. Maybe I completely understand. Job performance is of value to you. Try to understand where you're coming from. You know, your deadline to meet, you know, this goal was of interest to you, which was ultimately important to your job performance as well. It automatically puts them on the same understanding. Hey, our job is both important. Both have a mutual interest, and they're seeing each other. Negating of the, oh, you know, she did this. Any negative, okay? Total self-interest. Clarify that message. I see this is one we definitely have to work on. Is engage, ask open-ended questions. On our great call intake form, that was our new patients. You have, right, on that form, and it's engage. You know that we're engaging each other, and this is where, number one, miscommunication happens all the time, and I see it day in and day out. If you don't ask questions, you don't ask questions to bring out in the other person. For So when I find out those little things, the big things. So I have to find out really before I can be effective, before I can create a routine in that. To find out, I have to ask open-ended questions to my employees. Tell me a little bit about that. I'm frustrated about. Okay. I told now what? What are you frustrated about? I just discussed yesterday. What's the problem? Okay. That students are not going to reach that next level to their 100% productivity. You don't balance, you can emotionally balance. They can tell us more about that. Because they're teaching you something. Okay? And you go and you plan. You take that information, like Amina said, then you plan your next move. Okay? Something. These activities of brainstorming and compromising. Again, critical self-interest as well as, agreeing with something, so it can be hand in hand. Ultimately, okay. Ultimately agreeing with something, with your team and your employees together. This is the stage where you're going to have your employees own the solution. Okay, this is where you have your employees own the solution. Storming and compromising. How do you think we could have? How do you do you have? I would say, May, what ideas do you have? So we can minimize this happening. Allowing the solution. It's not a man's job to find the answers to everything. Have team members involved. But then like they're a part of something. The statement, like the pass off or blame and focus on repair by offering an action plan to resolve the problem. Or a way of big problem as a negative connotation and the challenge. And essentially resolve the challenge. When someone's asking, well, why can't you can go and read what we just did earlier. I can tell why didn't this video get in here? I told you to do this. What happened? And she could say,
Yeah, I was done it yesterday, then somebody else should have done it.
right. But now, she should say, if we were being aware about responses, so like conflict, a doctor or another thing. I told you should in the it would be a video. What happened?
I should have had, but I'm aware that if I'm going to be out of the office, that I had taken care of, or at least someone take care of it for me.
Okay. So determining a good technique for generating potential solutions to problem or challenge, compromising actually the best thing to you in the scenario for you too. So let's cover about communication.
Can I add one thing? Just to this conflict that you have the whole right response, but the best response or the best situation is to avoid the conflict altogether.
Yes.
Which in this case would be to come some either night or going through the whole thing and checking.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole took some time. I don't know if the cell phone is working. But I came here just specifically to set it up last evening because I knew this thing can take time and I would have thrown everything away. And in the morning, so I try to avoid that whole situation. That hey, there is this slide, so is the TV not working, and getting stressed out and then creating 10 different. So avoid conflict as a manager is the best solution.
So what? I said, like, now? Okay, this is assuming the worst. Huh? This telling me that they'll probably have that. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna do my job. That's what it was. That would happen. Yeah. Well, that's your idea of fun. How do you deal with fun? It's like, that's bad. Don't take offense. Well, it's fine. It's my job to work for you. But if you're a person, and it's always defensive, it's most important step. No matter who does what, we have to get these rush orders done. Don't do that. Customers won't have to pay the customers. I need the business. Perfect. Deal to the usual self. You know, it's not about being well.
Should I rush back to filing back to the archive and all that, play around in your computer? I hear that you don't.
Good. Check to yourself. Look. A good help change a relationship. Communication. Ask any questions. Fire or yes or no. Listen. Don't interrupt. You have to feel.
This here is active listening. Yep. That definitely is one that you practice. You have to recognize when you have the person cutting off the other person because you're quick to reply. Okay. Interrupt. You know, do not be quick to reply. When someone's asking you a question or concern again, just as if you were with a patient, you allow them to finish their sentences and express themselves. So you pause. The best thing I've ever known that pauses before he replies is oven. Like, I'm sure practice is intentional. You know, it takes practice. And so, because processing the same, judges, doing that. So, the big those who do that around you better than you do, and be honest with yourself and say, I need to work on that. I'll run through this quick. 7 steps to conflict resolution. 1, identify the problem and challenge. Real concerns and identify the issues or needs. Focus on the problem and challenge. Try to keep the behavior out of it and don't take it personally. Do so when attacking the other person. Identify and clarify issues and needs. 3, with an open mind. And the other person first. Try to get the other person to understand you. Solutions with no budget. Evaluation. Think about the win strategy. Identify positives and negatives to each, the possible combination of solutions, and modify them, and be creative. Clear. The first office lid. Creative, did he not? Okay. Creativity can bring some humor, and then people will say, it's silly. But be creative. Ask real big testing questions. What is? Everyone agrees on the solution. There's no answer, and ultimately, manager, you make the final decision, and I'm going to do a quick activity here, real quick. I want you guys to pair up briefs, if we have any. And I want you to come up with a problem challenge that you experienced in an office, and you guys will play amongst them. And then the manager, get one manager in each group. We do meter, and then choose a phrase. And you practice using the communication strategy, the I instead of the you. Okay, and then let's take off through this real quick. Okay, we don't miss it. We're not going to be able to communicate it and practice it. And all right, go ahead. Okay.